Hey there you, and welcome to the Mentor Mom YouTube channel. I'm Jill and I'm the Mentor Mom. Today we are going to be continuing a discussion from a previous video where I shared my favorite toys. Today I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite books as well as some tips on using books to stimulate toddlers' language. So let's get started. Okay, so you probably are struggling, like many, with trying to get your toddler interested in looking at books. Now, there are some kids that do really start out liking books early, but there are a lot of toddlers out there who, not so much. They pick it up, they look at it for a second, and then they run off. Or you try to put them on your lap, and they fight you, and they take off, and then the next time you get a book out, they're like, no thank you. So there's a whole process to getting toddlers to become interested in books. It can be a real challenge if you've got a mover or a shaker, kids who don't like to sit still, but I'll share a resource for them. Okay, so let me start by sharing a few of my favorite books to use with toddlers. And before I go on, there is a link down below that has the access to a PDF that has the toys I talked about in a previous video, but there's also information in there on some of the books that I'm going to talk about here and links to the Amazon store in case you're interested in checking them out or purchasing them. So I want to start with my all-time favorite book to use with toddlers, and that would be Brown Bear, Brown Bear. And I like this particular book because it's interactive. Whoever came up with the idea of these sliders on these books was a genius. Those lift a flap, they lift it and they rip it and it's gone, right? So this Brown Bear, I love it for a number of reasons. Number one being that it's interactive, but I also love the fact that it's really clear and crisp pictures and not too many pictures on a page, right? You got a brown bear, and then they can slide it open to see the bird underneath. And now, one thing that I always tell parents is to not worry about reading the pictures reading the words on the page and focus on the pictures instead. And you can certainly do that with this book. I will say though that this happens to be the one book that a lot of times I will actually do the words on the page, and it's because it's quick, it's short, and it almost becomes more like a song when we're doing it with a toddler. So I always pair some actions with it while I'm doing it. So what I'll do is I'll hold this, right? They'll see and want to slide this. Now this depends on where the child is with their engagement. If it's a difficult to engage child, I'm just going to let them open and shut it and explore it and just talk and label. But for little ones where maybe we're working on initiation or some imitation, I'll actually maybe cover this up, and then I'll tap the book as I'm reading and see if I can get the little one to tap with me or to tap their lap or to have their parents help them tap their lap. And we'll just do brown bear, what do you see? I see a, and we do the wait, and then we'll have them open the door, and then we talk about the bird, obviously, and then move on to the next page. After a while, they start to get that, okay, your hand's going to stay over it. We can start working on more or targeting the word open, you know. So this is one of my favorites. Love this interactive Brown Bear. Super, super fun. Now, if you don't have the interactive one, you can just cover up the picture, and then they have to move your hand to talk about the next object. So that's one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites, and I got this one recommended from a family, is Mighty Dads. I like this one a lot because for little boys especially, they're really into all of these different kinds of vehicles and stuff. But what I like about this one is it's a great one to just talk about the sounds. Spin, spin, spin. You don't even need to read the words on the page. You can just talk about some sounds. You can make up your own sounds. Smooth, 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 or move, move, move. It's quick, it's short, and it's got some nice pictures in it. So that is Mighty Dads by Joan Halub. I hope I'm saying that right, but that's a fun one. Another one is you got to have a first words book. So this one is by Pretty Books, And you see this one in Barnes & Noble and all those places. But this is a nice one with nice big crisp pictures, which the research shows actual photographs makes it a little bit easier for little ones to discern. The only issue with these books is there's a lot of pictures on the page, which can make it hard for kids who have limited attention. And sometimes the pictures are of things that maybe we don't talk about a lot, like, you know, do we all talk to our toddlers about tea kettles? I mean, I don't necessarily. So, yeah. Anyhow, in the beginning, when you're working with your toddler on books, you want to just join when you can. So if they pick up a book, hop in there and try to name something, whether it's a picture book like this or it's an actual storybook like this. If they open it up and they go to this page, then you can just talk about sound, spin, spin, spin. If they shut the book and move away, that's okay. We are done in that moment. Don't feel like you need to keep bringing them back to you to engage in this reading, because that eventually ends up kind of turning them off, right? So the key is join when you can. In the beginning, you may only be able to get in one or two, like a bird, a dog, car, and then they move off. That's okay. Every time they pick up the book, hop in and try to get something in. You know, say a word or so. After a while, what starts to happen is they start to wait a little bit longer. Like, oh, are you going to say something? Once we get to that stage, they're starting to just kind of make that association that these pictures on a page have a name and that you're going to name them. So you want to follow their lead with their interest in the book. If they want to be done, okay, we're all done. No pressure. The second thing is to focus on labeling in the beginning. So when they're looking at the books, we're just going to label and say the names of lots of different things. If you're able to, try to follow their gaze so you can see what it is that they're looking at. Kind of a challenge with these books with lots of pictures in them. The other thing that you can try sometimes that I recommend to families is to try to sometimes go into, and I don't normally recommend going into teacher mode, but sometimes with books, you want to switch it up position-wise. So maybe your child is sitting in front of you and you're holding the book like this as you're going through it. And you're still going to do the same thing. We're going to talk about the pictures and just wherever they touch, wherever they look. The nice thing about doing some book time in this position is it allows you to see what they're looking at, right? And then they can look up at you, they can look at the picture, they can look at you. So it's a nice way to see that, oh, he's looking down here. You're looking at the ball. Is that a ball? Right? So in the beginning, just do a lot of labeling. After you've been doing labeling for a while, then you can switch it up to where's the. So where's the ball? Where's the duck? Right? And once you ask the question, and try to only ask it once. We don't want to keep saying, where's the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? Ask the question. And then if they kind of look at you or they don't do anything, go ahead and say, there it is. Where's the ball? There it is. There it is. And just keep doing that for all of them. Where's the duck? There it is. Where's the cup? There it is. Once they've kind of gotten that down and understand that that's what you're going to do, then you can use a physical prompt, meaning that if they're sitting in your lap, and you guys are looking at the book together, you can take their hand when you say, where's the bunny? There it is, and take their hand and touch the bunny. Now, if your child tends to want to pull their hand away, maybe they've got some tactile sensitivities with their hands, try using a little bit firmer of a pressure. I've actually had success, too, with some of the busier kids with slapping the picture. Don't worry about the point. We'll get there at some point. But yeah, you can use a physical prompt when you're trying to get them to identify the pictures. So the next step would be if you've got them participating in the where's the game and you've been doing it for a couple of weeks and you're like, gosh, you know, I'm pretty sure that my little one knows what a cup is. Then what we're going to do is we're going to ask them, where's the cup? And you're going to wait, which is hard for a lot of parents to do, but wait, count to 3 or 5 in your head. And if your child's still struggling, then you can take their hand and do the physical prompt again. There it is. We want to get to the point where they're able to identify and touch those pictures on request. But we have to give them time to learn that, right? So they may know what the cup is, but to be able to say cup, that's a different skill. We'll talk about that in a minute. So in the beginning, we're just going to work on trying to get them to identify when we say, where's the, that they realize, oh, it's that thing, and I touch it every time, right? And of course, we give lots of praise. Good job. Yeah, you're so smart. So if they've been identifying the pictures for you on request and they've been doing it pretty consistently, Then we're going to move on to the next level and we're going to ask them, what is that? Okay, they've been pointing to the shoes for 3 weeks now. You know that they know what shoes are. They can go get their shoes. Saying what those are and naming them is a different skill than being able to point to them. And just like how you worked with them in the beginning on pointing to the shoes, you now have to model the answer to that question. What are those? And give them a couple of seconds and then say shoes. I always think that when we're moving kids towards naming pictures or objects, that it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like when you bump into somebody in the mall and they walk up to you and they're like, hey, Jill, how are you? How's it going? And you're like, oh, you look fantastic. How have you been? Because in that moment, you cannot pull their name out to save your life. I have that happen to me all the time. I can see their house. I can see their car. I can see their kids. But in that moment, I, for whatever reason, just cannot pull their name out of my head. And I think that's what it's like for kids when we move from where is the to what is that. I've had kids where I've showed them a picture of a spoon and said, what is that? And they go like this, like, I know, you eat with it. Or they run to the kitchen and they bring me one like, it's this. They still haven't built that neural pathway to be able to say it. So we have to practice it just like we did trying to get them to point. What is this? Ball. Can you say ball? Ball. Good job. After a while, they should be able to, when you start asking them, what is that? Be able to start naming it. So it's a process. Okay. So a couple more tips. As you saw with this particular book, lots and lots of pictures, and that can be really hard for kids who have limited engagement. So you can also make your own picture book where you focus on specific words that you would like your child to say, remembering functional communication, which we've talked about in previous videos. So this is what they call a Ziploc baggie book. It's just some Ziplocs with some staples and some tape and index cards. And in this one, I think I made this one for a little one that we were working on them being able to say some snacks. So I just cut out a picture of some potato chips that they like and put it in there. And just a couple of different objects, like this one has a dog and a shoe. So you can see this was super cheap to make, not a lot of money. We kept it to just a few different pages, right? Because they had really limited interest. So you can actually make your own picture book using Ziploc baggies. I've had some parents who have made their own picture books using like a cheapo photo album from the Dollar Tree. So you can take pictures out of magazines, you can print them off from Google Images, whatever works best for you. But that's kind of a nice way to be able to create your own book that works for your child. You can also put pictures on a key ring. Like this is a nice thing to have like in your diaper bag. This particular set is for a little one that we were working on the sound P. So I've got lots of P pictures that we were working on with this little one. But that's just another variation, especially for those kids, again, who are really busy and don't like to sit still. They like to do more with their hands. Sometimes these little laminated book cards can work really well for families. So finally, my last resource, and this is one of my favorites, and you're going to be like, Jill, you say no flashcards. This is the one exception. So I do love these flashcards by DK, My First Words Touch and Feel Picture Cards. And you can get these on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, about $9, I think. And what I love about these cards is that they come in this great cardboard box, right? And it's pretty sturdy. This set is probably about 8 years old, so it's lasted quite a while. And all of the cards that are in here have nice, crisp, clear pictures, and you'll notice that they have a sensory component to them. You know, so for example, the dog, which you can see this one's well loved, has like some fur on it so they can touch it. So for those busier kids who have a tough time sitting still with books, this is kind of a nice way to be able to work on keeping them engaged for a little bit longer. And again, nice crisp pictures with a white background, sensory component to it. The only complaint I have about this set is that some of the things that they put in there, like, I don't know how many little ones talk about corn on the cob. I'd rather have a banana in this set. More kids eat bananas, I think, when they're 2 than corn on the cob. But anyhow, super fun set. And in the beginning with little ones, especially if they're difficult to engage, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll just practice putting the cards in, saying, bye ball, bye corn, right? It doesn't really matter. And then sometimes they'll dump it out after 2, and then we'll start over again. What happens usually is they start to slow down, which it gives you just lots of opportunities to do lots of labeling, which again is a real challenge for kids who are not really engaged, or for kids who are like super busy and just can't sit still for a book. The ability to have their hands on a little bit with these cards keeps them engaged for a little bit longer. What you'll notice I'm not saying that we do is that we say baby. Say baby. Baby. Fish. Say fish. We don't want to go into teacher mode with flashcards, and that's probably the biggest reason that I usually suggest to parents to avoid flashcards. I mean, it comes from a good place, right? We're thinking that we're helping our kids, but it doesn't resonate well with toddlers. A lot of times we lose their interest. It's like watching a teenager when we talk to them and are lecturing them. The eyes start to roll back in their heads, and they're like, I'm not paying any attention to this. We got to keep it fun. We got to keep it engaging. We got to follow their lead. So these are also a great way, I should say, to work on receptive language with little ones, because again, like a big, busy book like this, trying to get them to identify an object or a picture on request is going to be a lot more difficult than if I held out or put 2 cards on the floor and said, where's the cat? You know, they're going to be more successful with fewer things, right? So once they start getting good at identifying the pictures on request, and again, you can have them on the floor, maybe you put some of the cards or move them out of the way and work on maybe 2 or 3 cards. As they get good at this, then you can add another card or another card. I've actually gotten to the point where some kiddos, we actually put all of the cards on the floor. They've gotten so good at the wares of the game and delight at showing us that they know what these things mean that they're able to identify every single picture in this box set. Another great tip for really busy kids is maybe to put a couple of cards of things that you know that they are familiar with, or that you think they're familiar with, set them on the card on the floor and say to them, jump on the shoes, let's jump on the apple, right? So that there's an active kind of component to the play, a physical part, which meets their need for sensory input, but we're also working on listening and following directions and identifying objects. So those are the DK My First Word cards, one of my favorites. Okay, so again, a lot of the links to these items are on the PDF that you can access down below. Also, I want to end with some tips. Okay, so just some reminders that you want to join when you can in the beginning, right? Hop in and get some labeling done. So focus on labeling. You want to follow their lead. So if they're done with reading, we are done with reading. We do not want to use any pressure during this activity because we're trying to develop a lifelong love of books, and it's one of the best ways to work on comprehension and language development. Another thing is to let them be in control. So if they want to turn the page, let them turn the page. Don't worry about reading the words, just talk about the pictures to start. Add some sounds to keep it fun. You know, turn, turn, turn as you're turning the page. If you see a ball, bounce, bounce, bounce goes the ball. Add some silly sounds and keep it interesting. Or like I was saying with the Brown Bear book, you know, do some tapping and almost chant the song. You know, make it more like a finger play that you're doing with them. And then finally, target things on the page that you know they're interested in. So if you've got a little one who's really interested in cars, every time you see a car on a page, just say car, 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 every single time. Remembering that they need to hear those words multiple times before they're going to be able to say those words. So repetition is key, and books are a great way to build in that repetition. Okay, so that is it for my discussion on books, book plays, and toddlers. I'm hoping that you were able to walk away with some tips to maybe make that story time with your little one maybe go a little bit smoother, so that you can develop a routine where as they grow older, you can read those words on the page and make book time one of their favorite activities to do with you. So I hope that you found this helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Before you go, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. All right, you guys, have a great one, and I'll see you next time.